Actually, you guys look great. Yeah, wonderful.
Don't lie to us.
I'm not lying.
At least I'm hidden by all, my profile's hidden from all.
I've got my
Perfect.
mule here covering my stomach.
I've got the mule here.
Hello and welcome to Audie's talent pool for the incredible second episode. After it's the reaction to the first one, they've decided to do a second one many months later, and now we're gonna get to interview, or not we, Nelsito's gonna interview three incredibly iconic theater performers of the Philippine theater scene, and they'll be talking about everything from their theater lives to theater companies to their techniques and anecdotes, and they're already slightly inebriated, so that's the question. We'll turn it over to Nelsito to interview. Can I say your names? Yeah, okay. Audie Gemora, of course, Jaime del Mundo, and Menchu Lauchengco-Yulo. Miss Menchu Lauchengco-Yulo.
Okay, to start off with, what is the first thing that comes to mind when you hear the word theater?
One word?
Any word. Any amount of words. But the first thing that comes to mind.
Life!
I am
Sharing.
creating.
What is the first thing that comes to mind when you hear the word rap?
Can I die now?
Beginnings.
Oh,
Beginnings.
ganda. I was gonna say
See, I
beginnings.
beat you to it.
Family.
Discipline.
There you go.
Okay. Okay. Speaking of beginnings, you mentioned
Yes.
beginnings. Do you remember the first thing Tita B would ever said to you? The first thing.
Holy cow.
I do.
That I was a trooper in
really?
Fitler. Yeah, I'll never forget that. She told me I was a trooper.
In context to...
I guess in context to, that was Fiddler on the Roof, 1978. I played Sprince. And I guess she saw that I was very passionate about it. So after opening night, she barely spoke to me during the course of rehearsals because I guess she was so busy doing the show, and Sprince has a tiny role. So after opening night, she actually told me that I was a trooper and that she'd like to work with me again. And so that was the start of everything. Although I was only 15, so selective pa my participation.
She made me cry, and she said, "Don't cry, I like you."
That is so her. That is so her.
That's basically what I remember.
That's so her.
Shadow first
What show?
first rehearsal of Shadowbox.
Ah.
I made the mistake. She asked me why, why are you doing that, and I made the mistake of answering her.
I see.
And you don't answer back.
Yeah, you don't answer back.
You don't answer
That's
back.
what we learned in rep. You don't answer.
Don't cry, and I did, and I like you.
Also, don't cry. You should never cry. I cried a couple of times.
I cried my first day of rehearsal.
Yeah. I think we all did. I don't know if Audie cried.
Audie cannot cry.
Matagal bago ako umiyak.
Audie was the golden boy.
You cried? You like your
You were the
tears?
golden boy.
You
How
have
can you
tears?
cry?
When I left rep nga, but that's mamaya na yun.
Yeah, we'll get
But
there.
during the course of rep, you were the golden boy.
Yeah, I know.
Hello.
So,
Yeah.
ako naman,
He did everything right.
anyway, what she asked me, the first thing she said to me was, "Are you passionate about the theater?" That's what she said. I was auditioning for a chorus line, and I started just a few bars of what I did for love, and she stopped me. And then she said, "Are you passionate about the theater?" And I'm like, oh, what does she mean? What does she mean? Yeah.
And that was the start of Audie.
Of course, between the three of us, I am the one with the least passion, and I admit it.
And I second the motion.
And I third.
But I would assume that rep was an attractive thing, therefore you guys would audition and became a part of it. So what, in your opinion, did rep possess that no other theater company at that time possessed?
Well, there was only really rep.
Yeah.
There was
Rep and PETA.
No,
but
there was,
there was MTG.
There was MTG,
There was
Manila
MTG.
Theater Guild. It
That's
was like
true.
a U.S., an American community theater out at the
There
Army
was more
Navy
like
Club.
regional.
Yes, Army,
Army
Navy. That's
Navy.
right.
That's
right.
actually where I started. I did not start with rep. I started with Army Navy. Actually, a lot of people acted there.
Dido, Celia,
Yeah.
The Freddy.
But there was
Ready.
very few choices back then.
Benita.
Yeah.
A lot of ex-rep.
Yeah.
A lot of people from rep.
Pero
Okay.
kahit papano rep paid. So it was really the only
So,
professional.
yeah,
Yeah.
Rep bragged about being the professional theater, and
Yeah.
and it was. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And because
when
we
you made
were-
it to rep,
Yeah,
it was
and we were comfortable in English.
Yeah.
So that's probably why we gravitated towards rep.
So it was really practical. It just makes
Yeah,
sense.
it was
English
practical.
company, English
Yeah,
speaking
yeah,
people.
yeah. Mind you, I did not, and I've said this many times, I did not grow up wanting to be in the theater. It was accidental. Everything that happened in my career was accidental. So that was in 1978. I had a friend of mine come over and say, "Hey, Mensch, there's auditions for." Then it was TNI.
Yeah.
And I was like, what's an audition? I have no idea. So I went. And so again, it wasn't me saying, I want to be in the theater sort of thing. So it kind of found me. And that's how I
You have to
began.
understand in those days, theater was not yet a profession. If you look back on Philippine theater, it really began with the schools. It was mostly in the back they had like courses.
It was a hobby.
Yeah,
You
and-
kept your day job. That's why rehearsals were usually at night.
Correct,
Because you
correct.
kept your day job.
But it really started in the schools, and that's why the most famous force in Philippine theater at that time, at least as far as our mentors are concerned, was Father Reuter.
Right.
Because he was jumping different schools, Catholic schools, and with an arts program and developing, putting up productions, of which Sina Bibot,
Yes, we're part
Baby,
of.
they all met.
Wasn't that how they conceptualized rap? In one of those shows with Father Reuter, I think.
I'm not
I remember hearing the story that they were thinking, they were doing a show together then, Leo, I think, I could be wrong, and they conceptualized.
Right. And in those days, talking about Leo made cuento that when he was still in Ateneo, the schools, Nel, were either exclusive boys schools or exclusive girls schools, and you could not mix. Therefore, if there were productions, in the 50s and the 60s, if you're in all-boys school, puro kayo lalaki playing female roles, and vice versa. I remember as a kid, I watched a production of, I believe, I forgot whether it's Sound of Music, but it was in Assumption and they're all women.
Even Captain Von Trapp was a woman.
Yeah, because and so that story goes with Bibot and Baby that they met in St. Paul, if I'm not mistaken,
Yeah.
or St. Jude,
Yeah,
I
it
think.
was
St.
either
Joseph?
Jasm's,
right,
or St. Paul's, one of those two.
probably St. Paul's.
Probably
Yeah.
St.
So
Paul's.
everything came out of the school, Nel. So hindi siya profession, and like Menchu said, people were doing it as a hobby. So most of the people who were practicing theater, at least in rep when we got in, were a bunch of students.
Yeah.
Or a bunch of rich matrons who had nothing better to do.
Well, not me.
Bibot and Baby also go to AADA, American Academy of Dramatic Arts.
Baby did study abroad, and so did Bibot. As
Yeah.
to where, I'm not sure.
Uh,
But they did study abroad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
South Dakota. They studied in South Dakota. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they
In
got
fact, I
posted.
remember in the early days of rep, parents were very against their children going into theater. They were afraid of what it meant to be in the theater. There was a very negative connotation to being in the theater. They thought that the theater people, you either do drugs. There was a lot of negativeness.
Even in those days, you cannot be an artista. Like you can't go to movies because that was considered some form of like almost like a prostitution thing.
Yeah,
if
it
you
was
went
looked
into
down
it.
upon.
It was really looked down on.
looked down upon.
So the performing arts was not at all a viable option for any
what
young
it was,
people.
what it is today.
Hobby lang siya.
Hobby lang.
lang.
And you kept your day job, like I said, because it didn't pay. We did have a rehearsal fee.
That's right. That's
We just had a
That's-
performance.
That is one thing that people did. She tried. Her objective was to professionalize it.
Yes, and she succeeded. And she succeeded.
Is that the reason why it really felt like a family?
Yes. Well, for me, it did.
It felt like a family.
it felt like a
It
family.
felt like a family. I think because we were all thrown in
Yeah.
together. And,
But it was
and
But it was also because it was such a small group.
it was a small
because
group.
It
we all-
wasn't.
We all ate together.
Yeah, it wasn't what it is today. That there's so many people into
And-
it. You have the summer workshops. You have this. In our day, we had 15 core members, and
Yeah.
we did everything together.
Right.
We vacationed together, we ate together. After a rehearsal, we went out together when we had money. So our paycheck would dictate where we...
Tibbs. Remember Tibbs?
So if we had no money, we would end up in Our House because it was
Our
cheap.
house was in Malate.
Yeah, if we had money, we would go to Bunchums. Remember
Yes.
Bunchums or Mobiola?
Yeah.
So it depended on how much money we had after a rehearsal or after a performance.
Thanks, Anna.
But I'll never forget, because it was such a small company, this is pre-workshops. Workshops then were given by people who had absolutely no patience. But I remember, do you remember in the parking lot? And we would be deciding where to go. All 15 of us, okay? Now, mind you, half of the people lived in Quezon City. Some people lived in Makati and we lived in Pasay. So it was always a debate where to go. Because we had very few friends who had cars. The rest of us had to go by cab. So it was always a debate. Like Mikey would always debate Makati because it's closer to him, Quezon City. Dodo would debate Pasay because it was closer to us. It was, 1 hour of debating in the parking lot of where we're going to end up eating. So that was our life. I mean,
I still remember Tibbs.
yeah.
Tips naman was in Makati Avenue.
Tips
Yeah, so
Makati
that was
Avenue.
when we had no money.
That was when we had
Inuman
no
lang
had
yun,
no
mga
money.
beer lang lahat yun.
It was just
Uh-oh.
cheap
Yeah.
beer.
Cheap
And
beer.
Sorry,
But-
just to, I don't want to make you guys older, but can you give me the price of the beer back then?
Oh my God.
I don't remember.
I
Maybe
remember
5
when
pesos?
soft drinks were 60 cents.
Oo.
Soft drink, ha?
Baka 1 peso or something like, or 5 pesos. No, I remember we used to treat ourselves when we would earn.
Yes.
Yeah.
already.
Yeah.
We would go to Whistle Stop,
Yes, Whistle Stop.
which was still in Pasay Road.
With the chicken bottoms.
Pasay
Chicken
Road.
bottoms.
Chicken bottoms.
And I remember, a steak at that time was a major treat na.
Yeah.
Kung kakain ka ng steak, that means ang laki ng kita mo for
Yes.
the season. Right? Mahal na mahal ng steak. Mahal na mahal yung steak. 50 pesos.
And remember, we would be so happy when people would buy us the shop house from Kowloon House.
Oh yeah.
So, and the reason why we say families, because Bibot would feed us in
Yeah,
between
and
shows. We
Biba
were fed.
tried to. I suppose she realized she wasn't paying us that much, so
Rehearsal.
she also made it up with a family.
And she
with a
fed us
family.
really well.
Yeah,
I mean, it was
we
a
were-
dash
we
for the
were-
table after the matinee,
Fed,
remember?
really.
Para sa hindi nakakaalam, we would have, like say on Saturdays,
Saturday matinee. evening.
Saturday
Yeah.
matinee and an evening show. So
Yeah.
they would always have food laid out in the lobby of Insular Life.
Yes.
It was really good food. Simple lang, you know?
Marietta.
Marietta's adobo.
Yeah.
Marietta's Mongo.
Oo, munggo, may mga combinations, adobo and munggo.
And pork chop.
And then the pork chop.
Yeah,
pork
the pork
chop.
chop.
Pork chop.
Yeah.
The pork chop was the die for. So they would lay it out, free food.
Yeah.
And
As
so
much
in
as
between
you
shows, we
wanted.
would eat
And it was one table.
on
And
isang
it was
mahabang table.
one long table.
And it was literally the fastest to get out there because we were matakaw. So if
Yeah.
you dilly-dally, removing your makeup, you have nothing left.
So we would get out there faster than the audience would leave the theater.
Yes.
So literally the audience
Wow.
would
See
see
us
us
run
in costume run
Oh,
out.
you don't even change your
and
costume.
and,
didn't
and
change
there
one
were
of them.
some people who would spit on their food.
Si Enchang.
Enchang and Pinky would spit on the food because we would get each other's
Oh
food.
my God.
You know, because we were
No
family.
time to take off your makeup because you
No
normally
time.
had about an hour or an hour and a half.
Do you remember Rose Tattoo? You were
Yes!
And Enchang,
Si Enchang was playing. Si Enchang was
Strega.
the Strega, which is a witch, right? So she was ugly. Talagang she had a
latex
mole
and
here
hair.
with hair in her mole. And she was eating.
and she smelled bad because of what was on her
Latex.
face. It
The
smelled
latex.
horrible.
Latex
So she was in the far end of the table. But if she took time to remove it, wala na siya
Wala
pagkain.
na time.
So she would eat.
So she eating there at Strega and nobody wanted to eat with her. But yeah, that was the center of Rep's family. It was always
It was
around
the food. And it was amazing because that's what added to the family thing because the audience would actually see us. And as they left, they would be smiling as they see us, gobble up food.
Starving artist.
So
Imagine
yeah,
we
it
would
was-
bring them to London or New York or wherever it is, or Paris, wherever the venue was. When they come back, we're eating pork chop. So,
Is this a feeling that has never been replicated after in your own individual careers?
Well, personally, me no. But that's the.
close. I remember the stuff.
meron naman pakain. There are productions
But
that
it's
we
different.
together.
Yeah, but that's
Yeah,
again
it's-
segregated.
but it's segregated.
Yeah, it's
It's
segregated.
more of
Yeah.
And don't,
This
don't
one kasi there was,
It was
no.
cast and crew.
Yeah, there was
together
no
in
segregation with the directors and the cast. And
Yeah.
There was no segregation.
Bebot was head of the table, of course.
Yeah.
But everyone else.
Yeah, everybody ate the same
You
thing.
just ate. You just got whatever seat
Yeah.
was.
There's one thing also that we are forgetting is that we were a repertory company, and that was a real practice of a repertory company, which means we were the same actors circulating. Sometimes we would be lead, sometimes we'd be in support, sometimes we're backstage,
Yeah.
sometimes we're in front,
Selling tickets,
for programs. Sometimes we were in the office. So family talaga. Naalala niyo ba the office in Land Bank?
Yes,
Okay.
Taj Mahal.
Right.
Yeah.
The Bebop had an office there which had a refrigerator, which was always stocked with something. We could just go in there and get it.
Yeah.
Because maliit pa kami. We were like you
Very
said, 15
small, 15
people.
core.
But as we grew bigger and bigger,
Yeah, hindi na
kaya.
Do you remember she had that sandwich maker?
Yes.
He had a sandwich.
She had
Yeah.
a sandwich maker where you put
Grilled
the bread and
made
cheese.
sandwiches.
and we would make sandwiches constantly.
Cheese and butter
Cheese and corned beef and basta that was our constant. And we would just go into the office
And many
take-
times she would treat us to Manila Pen.
Yeah.
The whole group of us.
Yeah.
She never treated me. Baka you're special.
Audie was the golden boy.
Speaking of golden, thank you, make my segue from each to Menchu.
Okay.
The golden years. Okay, everybody talks about the golden years, the rep golden years, where you were churning out shows. There was standing room apparently in William J. Shaw, if I'm not mistaken.
Insular.
Sorry.
Insular.
What do you think were you doing that was right at that time? And is that something that can be replicated now? The same formula that made it work back then, can that ever be repeated now?
Well, the advantage of
What are they doing wrong now?
Yes,
what are we doing wrong?
No, because let's face the facts. We don't get standing rooms.
Yeah, no, the
No.
advantage of Insular is it was 222.
Yeah.
If you could pack in people, it was 300.
And it was a very limited run.
It was a very limited run. And,
No.
and people,
No.
wait. Let me finish.
Yeah.
And you can argue back afterwards. And people,
And it's time.
Boy, I'm getting wet!
and people wanted to see it. There's nothing more than we would turn people away.
Yeah, I
And
remember
there's
that.
nothing more for people to want to see it than get turned
You
away.
knew we were turning people away because you'd see Bebop backstage. Hiding.
Should be hiding.
She'd be hiding.
It
She
was-
hid
so-
in Les Mis. Remember Les Mis? She
Yeah.
was
Oh, well,
hiding.
the Miz is
Yeah,
Morocco.
much later on,
But
yeah.
but you know, so Insular Life had 222
220.
seats, and they actually put bleachers.
Yeah.
They built bleachers
In the back.
In the back, mind you, and then they put monoblock chairs in the
On the
aisles.
sides.
Yeah.
So we actually got it up to 300.
Yeah.
Now I don't think that is legal,
Wow.
and I don't think that you
That's
can
a
do that.
fire hazard, yeah.
You can do that anymore.
Yeah, you're talking the late
Yeah.
70s, early 80s.
But there's nothing that being told that you can't see. That even Cameron McIntosh said the way to sell out a show is tell people they can't buy a ticket, and
Everybody goes crazy.
and they will go crazy. So this is actually what happened. We literally turned people away, and we were so happy when we were.
No,
turning
the reason why I wanted to
people away.
argue with you about limited
You
run-
always wanted to argue with me.
Of course, that's
That's
our
our
middle
review.
name.
That's another.
another-
I wish Cos Ronnie was
Actually,
playing.
dapat dito ka sa gitna, nandiyan si Jaime.
Oh, I'm like,
Diba? No, the reason why I wanted to say that hindi limited run because the big difference
Yeah.
between now and then was that rep at that time because wala siyang kalaban.
Yeah.
And when I say wala siyang kalaban, I'm not just talking about theater companies. I'm talking about, there were no
Social media.
like movie houses at that time. Pag-iisa lang yun. You go to Rizal Theater, it's a big movie house that seats about 1,000 people.
And they're
And
runs
then
for like 2 weeks.
and many theaters later on came and they already did the multiple which you guys are used to, where 300 people can fit in. So we didn't have competition from movie houses. We didn't have competition from restaurants. There were no hardly
social
any-
media, there was nothing.
Yeah, there were no malls.
5
really.
channels on TV.
Yeah.
5 channels.
Five channels
Channel
on
7,
TV.
Channel 9,
Right.
Channel
So there was
4,
no
11,
competition.
13.
Yeah, 13.
No competition. So no competition from other forms of entertainment, and Repertory was the only professional theater company that does English speaking at that time. Now, in that so-called 300-seater thing, they ran, however,
24 shows.
they would do 5 shows per season. There were 2
2
seasons.
seasons, so 10 shows
Each
a year.
season had a show, right? Each show, right, ran for 25 performances. So 25 performances per show, right? Times 5, you do the math. That's a lot of shows.
Because he can't do the math.
That's
That's a lot of shows.
That's as close as it gets.
But you have to agree. Ang
Yeah.
daming shows.
Yeah.
Okay? And then the other season would be, and in between, that's why kanina when we were trying to figure out what season did you start?
Yeah.
Confused kami kasi even in between the seasons,
Nag-overlap.
right? There were big musicals. Big musicals that were done naman in Meralco.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, no, they were not limited.
We were doing 12 shows a year.
Yes, because I remember we would be performing and rehearsing at the same time.
Right.
At intermission, like I remember I was doing once a Catholic, and in between I was rehearsing. Noontime I would rehearse for a Sweeney, then I would perform once a Catholic, and then during the break after we ate, we would perform. We would rehearse again Sweeney, then I would get ready for a performance, and that's how our lives were.
Yeah, that was our life. And then sometimes when we were doing Guys and Dolls and searching for the Crystal Star, I remember for Araneta, we would have after the evening show, we would still have rehearsals.
Yeah, sometimes we would still have rehearsals. It was
crazy.
It was crazy.
But- and
And I think that's why we all got so close.
Yeah, that's one. What close is also the other thing aside from the fact that we were constantly being employed.
Yeah.
You were employed the whole year.
Yes.
The whole year. You were working the whole year.
Yeah.
So it was better than now. Now kasi ang dami ng theater companies, ang dami ng competition. And one's money has not grown. So you choose where you want to spend your $1,000.
Yeah.
Right? So it's
Yeah.
even worse now because it's like imagine the pie, you're slicing the pie now so small. So in those days it was wonderful to do 25 shows
Of a show.
of a show 5 times
And
of a
remember,
season.
Oz, even if you were not on stage, you were still doing stuff off stage.
Yeah. Actually,
You know?
that's one thing that Biba wanted to do was to keep people employed.
Yeah.
So you were either tearing tickets or ushering people in.
I was
or
stage crew many times.
stage crew. I was
Raymond
stage-
learned
I
how to
was-
do lights by being
I
in the
was
light crew.
stage crew also.
Right.
God, we sound so old.
So, but no, those were better days. Absolutely better days.
And that's how we learned. Because none of us were trained. I never went to school. Neither did you guys, right? I never went to school. I learned everything. When I entered rep, I had no idea what stage right meant or downstage. I had no idea. Because again, it was accidental.
Sometimes we talk
not exposed
we
to
talk amongst ourselves and we say, you know, we of course every generation would say they were the best generation, right? But sometimes we'll say, you know, we were the best generation of actors that came out of rep. And it's not about us so much as the opportunities that were provided for us. Because when you do 10 productions a year, plus 2 musicals,
12.
plus 2 musicals,
Yeah.
and you did everything from drama to farce to Neil Simon plays
Yeah,
to
everything.
to you were trained constantly, and we were never, because we were mostly young. Bibot had no.
Yeah, we were young. You were 15.
I was
You were-
15 when I started.
15.
Pero
You were-
wala siyang.
I was 17.
But she did not cast according to age.
She was way older.
He always is.
And it's going to descend into
So,
Yeah.
you
Raymond,
were a splash.
everybody
A
started young.
splash.
Raymond was 12, Leia was 7, Monique was 8.
No, but kasi Hoda, whoever you were, like
You cannot say Kese Hoda on Kubo.
He'll be beat.
Are you serious? Anyway. No, but for example, the famous young people who had to play older roles.
Mikey Berata, always.
I was married
You.
to Joy, to Baby,
Yeah.
to Benita.
Yes.
Neo Infante, because she didn't
I
care
never
how
had to
old you
say
were.
thank God.
She always said, if you're an actor, you can play any role.
Yeah.
Diba?
If you don't know how to swim, act like you're swimming.
Yeah.
Oh.
So speaking
And
of
we were
acting,
thrown on stage with the veterans.
And you were so
And so, patay ka.
amazing.
Sink or swim.
My next question is being exposed to that much material constantly. Either you're the scene partner of somebody or watching as a crew member or tearing tickets. Most memorable performance that you saw.
That we
Saw?
Oh, someone?
Not you you saw.
In rep.
In rep?
In those years.
Baby Barredo.
A performance.
1977, Anna Leonowens.
Really? Yeah.
King
I
and
agree. King and I.
King and I.
Anna
Leonowens.
Leonowens. Baby Barredo. I was.
And it's a cliche I've said many times because Raymond was in it. I auditioned, but I didn't get in. So I sat in the CCP, the orchestra started, and Baby came out, and that's when I knew I wanted to be in the theater.
I was in that production.
You were in it.
I was crew, though. I was crew. So I would see Baby from the sides. I don't know why I would escort her to the wings, and I'd see her I see her going. I remember. I don't know if this can be.
Okay.
She would have something in her cleavage, and that was a big cleavage, and particularly in the ballroom.
You're supposed to sink at this point.
No, I mean, a lot of people
Still okay.
would want to have big cleavages. There was a big cleavage, and I was all like 17, so of course, my voice is rising. But I thought it was her mic. I remember saying
This was pre-lapels, huh?
exactly.
We had no lapels
There
then.
were no lapels, so
Hanging
I said,
mics yan.
I think, baby, and I would call her baby, not Tita Baby. I think, baby, your mic is a bit obvious. She said, "That's not my mic, that's my lighter."
But I'll never forget her performance as Anna Leonowens. There are several. Tita Joy as Piaf.
Yeah,
was
she-
the
Joy in two keys.
In two keys.
Yeah,
In
there were
two keys.
several.
Because that came right after P.S. Your Cat is Dead, and we were killing each other in P.S. Your Cat is Dead. But Joy was rehearsing, so we would go to P.S. Your Cat is Dead, and we would catch the rehearsal. We weren't involved in it, but we would catch it because they were rehearsing in Insular before we went to our show. And Joy was really, really
I thought Freddy Santos was an awesome comedian, and most people don't know
Gemini.
He was
Freddie
he was funny.
very good.
Yeah.
Actually,
In
to tell you
comedy.
the truth,
Junix, my God.
yeah. To tell you the truth,
Never be on stage with Junix
we
in a comedy.
had what we call, well, I don't know if with you guys, but I know with Luna. With Luna, we had what we called the rep gems. And the gems were when a character and an actor went schwack. And oh God, one of them is Amadeus.
Amadeus. No,
Yeah,
Audie was
But
very good as
that was going to be my
Amadeus.
follow-up. Now,
Well,
see
let me
what
think.
Tita
But
Joy is.
Amadeus.
Joy in two keys.
Piaf.
Freddie in Gemini. I didn't see Piaf.
Okay.
Freddie in Gemini. Bebot in Whose Life Is It Anyway?
Whose Life Is It
and,
Anyway?
and
Yes.
Little Line Music.
Yes.
And Baby in almost
Filomena.
any Tennessee
She's
Williams,
She was
Edward Albee
fantastic.
Tita Celia, with Tita Celia, she did all the Neil Simon plays.
Yeah.
She and Chito Ponce and really were the love team.
Yes.
So when it
correct.
came to that kind of comedy,
Yeah.
they were the best.
Yeah.
They were also the best.
So
But
those are
it's amazing to see that
yeah.
and to want to be like
Yeah.
Ah.
That-
Baby
those-
and King and
those
I,
were
definite. Baby and King and I,
inspirations.
and Baby, my first time, I totally fell in love with Baby Barreto. Baby Barreto. Maine. She was
Maine,
wonderful.
yeah. Even Becca stopped him.
Becca.
Becca Godinez as stopped him.
Stopped
And
him.
you have to remember, this was the CCP main theater with no lapels.
With no lapels. With no
Lapels only came in West Side Story when we did West Side Story.
And Audie broke the lapel.
And I remember sitting in the CCP and I could hear them.
Yes. Speak into the well.
Yes.
Speak into the well.
Okay. This is a sidebar story. So anyway, before lapels came, so Fiddler in the Room and so forth, Sound of Music. Somehow there will always be a well, and there were mics in the well. And when I started,
Talking to the well.
Sound of Music, I don't remember what it was, but I remember Fiddler was a well. I forget what Sound of Music was, or the gazebo. I don't know what it was. So there was a well, and it was always bring them. So you had all this acting around the well because the mics were in the well.
Because the mics were in the well.
So and
You
I remember because like I said, I did not grow up wanting to be in the theater. So I started in the theater, and I had a really really soft voice. It was a pretty soprano, but it was very mahina, completely untrained. And so when I did Liesel, and we did 16 going on 17 Audie, and Bebot would be screaming at Audie, bring her, whatever. Bring Menchu to the gazebo, I can't hear her. So Audie would, bring me to the gazebo so I could be heard by that one. Then the moment I go far, bring her back! So bring her back. So that was our
No,
line.
but I do remember when they took a chance finally and gave Menchu her first lead role was as Maria in West Side Story,
Oh my
and
God.
that was the first time they bought a lapel.
The lapels, yeah.
It
Those
wasn't
are the
even
big ones pa
Yeah,
here.
it wasn't even this one. It's like big chunky ones.
Yeah.
She put it on, and
Maria. Maria!
That happened.
Maria!
No, but I do remember. It's very vivid for me that particular rehearsal, Mensch, when we put on the lapel mics
Okay.
and you started to sing.
Okay.
And Barredo was so excited. She's like, I knew she was so
Yeah, Barredo pushed for me, in fairness to
Yeah,
her.
she was
pushed for me.
because she could finally hear Menchu talaga loud and clear
Otherwise,
in the
you couldn't
microphone.
hear me.
But her soprano came out, and baby was thrilled beyond words.
Yeah, I remember
that she
she
cast
pushed
you.
for me. Yeah.
A first lady was born.
A
A
first
first
lady.
lady. Carmen Jr.
No, because I remember Barredo pushed for me. Bebop was
Yeah,
not
that-
sold on the idea because I was very inexperienced. And in fairness to them, they sent me to vocal lessons. They paid for my voice lessons.
Isang Tapales.
Isang Tapales. And I remember Isang Tapales was the original Madama Butterfly.
Oh.
So Junix and I went to her, and she's this really old lady. She was what, in her 80s?
She was probably in
But
her
she
hundreds.
was wonderful. But every time she was late for the class, Junix and I were like, oh my God, something happened.
No, she was like 180.
Yeah, she was really.
Just to go, you know, we were out. You're listening to opera. Benjamina Gigli.
Okay.
She sang with him.
What?
Yes. She
sang-
was the
She sang
Isang
with him.
Tapales.
She sang Butterfly in
Oh my God.
She was amazing in her prime.
She was a tiny woman, and she was taking the jeep at 100 years old.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
So they sent me. They paid for my schooling. I mean, we were when they saw the talent, even if we didn't see it, because I certainly didn't see it. I was very happy in the chorus. That's why I say my career is really. I went into directing because Audie pushed me. I didn't think I could direct. I didn't think I could do lead. I was very happy in the chorus. You know, I had no ambition, but they saw something in me. And that's how everything started. My becoming associate artistic director fell on my lap. I did not look for these things.
You know, one thing to be said about Bebo, she recognized talent.
Yeah, she did.
She really recognized talent.
You know what? I'm just so enjoying it.
Wait, we're so nice.
I'm gonna fall in the pool!
We're so nice. This is not us.
Wait, sorry.
Look at Ronnie.
Come on.
Guys,
Come on.
should this be recording?
Yeah, that's recorded.
It's recording.
I just looked up and it says movie recording has been stopped
Oh,
automatically.
okay. Cut muna tayo.
Does that mean
Because-
it's been cut? Or?
No, because that's the BC. The AD later on will be a lot more spicy.
That's after.
So-
That's up to him.
Cut muna tayo while we go to the bathroom.